Hey, first grade families, it's Mrs. O'Hare, and I'm back with Skinnybones. Chapter 2 Showin' and Tellin'. The first time I ever remember making people laugh was when I was in kindergarten. Each morning, the teacher would ask if anyone had something special for show and tell. At first, I was pretty shy about it. I would just sit there quietly at my desk and keep my mouth shut. But there were lots of kids who didn't. Like, there was this one kid who we called Weird Peter Donnelly. Every single day, when the teacher asked if anyone had something special for show and tell, Weird Peter Donnelly would raise his hand. Mostly, he brought in his hobbies. Weird Peter had the dumbest hobbies in the whole world. One of them was collecting different color sweater fuzz. Scary, right? One day, he brought his fuzz collection to school. He kept it in a shoebox. When he passed it around, I felt stupid just looking at it. Then all of a sudden, I got this really funny idea. I was just about to pass the box to the next person, and I pretended that I was going to sneeze. Achoo! I sneezed smack into the middle of Weird Peter Donnelly's sweater fuzz. Fuzzballs went flying everywhere. The whole class went nuts laughing. Weird Peter freaked out. He ran over to my desk and began gathering up all the fuzz and putting it back in his box. The teacher told me to help him, but I was laughing too hard to get out of my chair. I had to admit, making people laugh was a lot more fun than sitting quietly at my desk. From then on, I began to use show and tell. From then on, I began to use show and tell to tell the class funny things that had happened to me. When I ran out of things that were true things to tell, I just started making them up. One time, I told the class that my father was Mr. Potato Head. I don't know what made me say such a dumb thing. It just came out. The teacher made me sit down. She said there was a big difference between show and tell and show and blatantly lie right to your face. Personally, I don't think teachers like it when students are funnier than they are. So far, I've been funnier than every teacher I've ever had, and not one of them has liked me. My goal is to try and find a teacher who appreciates my sense of humor. Last year in 5th grade, I had a teacher named Ms. Henderson. Out of all the teachers I've ever had, Ms. Henderson is the one who disliked me the most. It makes sense, though. In 5th grade, I was the funniest I've ever been. On the very first day of school, I knew, and I'm sorry guys, there's 2 dogs over here playing, so if it gets noisy, I knew we weren't going to get along. Miss Henderson made everyone stand up next to their desk and introduce themselves. You had to say your name, where you were born, and something about your family. How lame is that? Allison Martin went first. She said, "My name is Allison Martin. I was born right here in Phoenix, and I have 2 brothers." Ooh, let me write that down, I thought. Then Brenda Ferguson stood up. "My name's Brenda Ferguson. I was born in California, and I have a baby sister." This had to be the most... Excuse me. Monty and Levi are playing right here. Hey! Shh! So I spray him with water, and that usually fixes it. This is Levi. Levi is my daughter's dog. He's a little shy. Or not. Okay. Then Brenda Ferguson stood up. Levi, "My name is Brenda Ferguson. I was born in California, and I have a baby sister." And blah, 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 I thought. This had to be the most boring first day of school I'd ever had. After about 6 more kids had spoken, I couldn't stand anymore. I raised my hand. "Yes," said Miss Henderson. "You there in the yellow shirt." I looked down at my shirt. Yep, it was yellow. That was me, all right. Miss Henderson, I was just wondering, maybe we should try and tell you something a little more interesting about ourselves instead of just the usual stuff," I said. Miss Henderson considered it for a second, and then she gave me that little smile. "Okay, why don't you start us off? Tell us who you are and tell us something interesting about yourself." Wow, I thought, maybe for once I've got a teacher who's going to appreciate me. "Okay, I'm Alex Frankovich," I said, "and I brought a sandwich for lunch today." And I just like everyone to know that my baloney has a first name. It's Oscar. That's from an old commercial, you guys. You probably don't know that. The whole class cracked up. Miss Henderson had to beat her desk with a ruler to get everyone to calm down. I almost felt sorry for her. That was when she came over to my desk, bent down, and whispered in my ear, "I've got your number, funny boy." As soon as she got the class under control, we started all over again with the same boring stuff that we had been doing before. After about an hour, we were almost finished. That's when I first saw T.J. Stoner. He was sitting all the way in the back of the room, so he was the last person to talk about himself. He stood up real slow and real cool. He said, "My name is T.J. Stoner," he said. "I just moved here from San Diego, and I have an older brother who plays baseball for the Atlanta Braves." Then he sat back down, just as slow and cool as when he stood up. I knew right away I wasn't going to like old T.J. Stoner. Miss Henderson did, though. She was totally impressed. "Really, T.J.? Wow," she gushed. "Why don't you tell us just a little bit more about him?" T.J. stood up again and said, "Well, his name is Matt Stoner, and this is his second year in the majors. He's a pinch hitter, he had added. "How exciting," said Miss Henderson. "Do you play baseball too, T.J.? He nodded. "I'm a pitcher. Last year, my team won the California State Championship, and I was voted most valuable player." By this time, I was ready to vomit. I raised my hand again and waved it all over the place. You could tell Mrs. Henderson did not want to call on me, but I was pretty hard to ignore. "Okay, Alex," she said, annoyed. "Well, I just thought the class might like to know that I play baseball too," I said. Miss Henderson stared. So last season I played right field," I told her, "and I didn't get voted most valuable player, but I did come in second in the swimsuit competition." That did it. The whole class went crazy again. Brenda Ferguson laughed so hard she fell out of her chair. 2 people didn't laugh at all. Can you guess who the 2 people would be? One was T.J. Stoner, and the other was Miss Henderson. I sat down and shut my mouth. I may be funny, but I'm not totally dumb. All right, let's just go ahead and read another chapter. Because otherwise it's going to take me a whole week to get back on this video. Excuse me. Chapter 3. Chapter 3 is called Reekin' and Stinkin' and Little Do-Si-Do. Sometimes I think it would be fun to be a school principal. Especially in the summer. In the summer, a school principal spends his time composing lists of all the kids in the school who hate each other. And then he makes sure that they end up in the same class together. Trust me, that's not what a principal does. My principal must really have had a good laugh when he put T.J. Stoner and me together again this year. Ever since my music teacher sent me to the office for getting my head caught in a tuba, my principal hadn't seemed to like me very much. When I first discovered the news that TJ was in my class again, I went straight to my mother. I was hoping she would call the school and have me switched. But no luck. All Mom did was tell me I should try and ignore him. Seriously, she's always giving me that great advice. Great advice like that. She hands me my lunch, shoves me out the door. Her problems are over for the day. Mine are just beginning. Last year, T.J. Stoner grew to be the biggest kid in the whole 5th grade. When I began to notice how gigantic he was getting, I decided it might not be a bad idea to get on this guy's good side. But T.J. did not seem too interested. When I asked if he wanted to be friends, I believe his exact words were, "Get out of my face, toad sucker." Would that be a no? I said. TJ grabbed me by the shoulders. That would be sorry guys, this is one of those things that makes me cringe, so don't repeat it. TJ would say, that would be "I hate your slimy guts, Frankovich." I smiled. "Oh, come on, TJ, can't our slimy guts be friends?" TJ didn't think it was quite as funny as I did. I could tell by the way that he pushed me down and pinned, pinned my face under his foot. You think you're a funny guy? You think just because you're a funny guy, you think you're funny, don't you, you skinny little bag of bones? He said. It's too bad my mother wasn't there. Maybe she could have told me how to ignore someone's Nike in my mouth. I think the worst thing about being in the same room with TJ is having him in my PE class. I hate to admit it, but he really is a great athlete. For a kid, TJ Stoner is the best ball player I've ever seen. There's only one sport I'm better than TJ. It's square dancing. I figure I can count square dancing as a sport because we do it in PE class. You ought to see me. I can do-si-do better than any kid in the whole school. One time, I asked the PE teacher, Mr. McGinsky, if he had ever thought of starting a school square dancing team. I told him that if he did, I would volunteer to be the team captain. Mr. McGinsky thought I was being a smart aleck. He told me to sit my butt down and shut my mouth. In case you've ever noticed, PE teachers really enjoy saying but a lot. Anyway, I do play other sports besides square dancing. Like TJ, I played Little League Baseball for 6 years. But to tell you the truth, I'm not exactly what you would call a really good athlete. Actually, I'm not even really okay. Basically, I'm just trying to say I stink. I got proof, too. Every single year that I've played Little League Baseball, I've received a trophy for Most Improved Player. Now, at first you might think that sounds pretty good, which is exactly what I used to think. But over the past 6 years, I've noticed that none of the really outstanding players ever get Most Improved Player award. And the reason is simple. The outstanding players are already so busy being outstanding, they can't improve much. Let's face it, the only players who can improve are the ones who reek to begin with. Last year at the end of baseball season, I tried to explain how I felt to my father. We were sitting together at Little League Awards ceremony, and the announcer was calling the names of the players that were going to be receiving trophies. I started squirming in my seat. Just relax, Alex, said my dad. It won't be the end of the world if you don't win Most Improved again this year. He didn't get it at all. No, Dad, don't you see? That's just it. I tried to explain, I don't want to be the Most Improved Player again. I mean, I don't want to sound like a poor sport or anything, but if they call my name, let's just pretend we're not here, okay? What do you say, Dad? Can we do that? Couldn't we? I could tell by his face he was shocked. Pretend we're not here, he blustered. Why in the world would we pretend we're not here? Shh, Dad, not so loud. It's just embarrassing to get another improved award. That's all. I don't want it. You don't want it? What do you mean you don't want it? I can't believe I'm hearing this. How ungrateful can you get, Alex? Do you know how many kids would love to get that award tonight? Yeah, Dad, I know, I answered. But that's because nobody has ever gotten it except for me. I've had it 5 times in a row. Don't you see a pattern here? Every year, I start out totally reeking, which I guess means really bad, and end up only stinking. The next year, I start out reeking again. Is that supposed to make me proud? All of a sudden, we heard it. My name being called over the microphone. Alex Frankovich, Most Improved Player Award for Team Number 7, Preston's Pest Control. Quick as anything, I slid down in my seat so no one could see me. My father grabbed my arm to make me stand up, but I doubled over and put my head between my knees. Alex Frankovich! Alex, is Alex here? The announcer called. My father jumped up from his seat and pointed at me. At least that's what I think he did. Here he is. He's right here. Alex Frankovich is right here, my dad yelled. Everyone started clapping. A few of the kids who knew me started shouting, "We want Alex! We want Alex!" Finally, I had no choice. I stood up and I started making my own way to the bleachers. Down the bleachers. On the way down, I decided that me and dear old Dad were finished. Kaput. Finito. When I got to the bottom, I spotted DJ Stoner. He had already received his zillionth award for Most Valuable Player. and was sitting in the front row pointing at me and laughing at me. Just pointing and laughing. I hated it. I mean, I couldn't let him get away with making fun of me like that, you know? So I decided the only thing to do was pretend that I was actually enjoying myself. I walked to the middle of the gym, turned around, started taking bows, throwing kisses. Then I walked over to the table and picked up my trophy. The announcer handed me the microphone. I was supposed to say thank you, but instead I took the microphone, held it up to my mouth, and burped. The whole audience went nuts, like you would not believe. At least that's the way it sounded, but looking back, it was probably only the kids who went nuts. Grown-ups don't usually think burping in a microphone is that comical. Anyway, after that, I threw a few more kisses, I ducked out of the gym door, and walked home. I knew I was in big trouble, so I went straight to my room and waited for my father. I just wanted to get it over with. While I was waiting, I made a sign and hung it on my door. Hung it outside my door, and the sign read, "This room belongs to Alec Frankovich, the only boy in the world who has gone from totally reeking to totally stinking in 6 years in a row." When Dad saw the sign, he didn't even bother coming in my room to yell at me. I guess he figured I already felt bad enough. And he was right. All right, guys. I'll try not to wait so long before chapter 4. You guys have a good night. Be good for your parents. Love you and miss you.